Welcome to the Emotional Eating Unwrapped podcast. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, an emotional eating and weight loss coach for women looking to fall in love with eating, create healthy attachments with food, and lose weight sustainably. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Emotional Eating Unwrapped. So before we jump into today's episode, I just wanted to give a brief introduction because I am joined by Kassi for today's episode, but we got so wrapped up in our conversation that we just completely forgot to introduce the episode. And so I'm coming on here to just share a little bit about the episode before we dive in. So we talk about all things emotional dexterity. We talk about how we often compare ourselves to our past selves. And we talk about so much more in regards to body image, self-worth. And you won't believe that it all started with a random comment that I made about tennis. I can't wait to hear what you think of this episode. Let's get right into it. What's up? I'm good. You know this, I'm like a massive tennis fan, and so it's the Australian Open, so I'm like, my sleep schedule is very bad.
I know. It was so funny because I messaged you the other day and or like sometime last week, and it was later in the evening, and you'd replied and we kind of like went back and forth a little bit, and I was like, oh, she's so up watching the Open right now.
I've been waking up at like 5 o'clock in the morning to watch the Australian Open. Yeah, I'm obsessed, like literally. And then I spend, so much time while I'm working, listening to, review shows and like analysis. Like it's crazy. I'm an insane person. I am extremely, that's a very generous word for my obsession. Yeah.
We won't say obsessed. We're
yes. I'm dedicated. I'm enthused. I'm enthusiastic.
Yes, absolutely. Is there somebody that you in particular that you're like keeping an eye on?
Yeah. So, I mean, people are going to come at me, especially millennials who listen to this, but I'm a massive Novak Djokovic fan. So, and he was kind of the like Cinderella of the Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer rivalry. And so, I've been his fan since like 2008. There's just so many things about his discipline. I think he's being recognized now for a lot of the little things and a lot of the nuance that I don't think was understood about him. It's really one of the things that like I really relate to is like nuance and discipline and like mental strength and, really like self-honoring, like your body. There's a lot of things about the way that he goes about the game that are much more than power and talent and like game strategy. It's a lot of like it's very holistic the way that he approaches being an elite athlete. And I think I relate to that a lot, and I knew that from the get that he was similar to that, so it's been really interesting. Like he struggled with food allergies. He used to like have to retire because he's gluten-free, like he has gluten stuff. Like he kind of understands the holistic nature of performance, kind of being, obviously he has like a major drive to like be the best, and I don't think everybody needs to be that, but he understands the connection between all of that. And so, it's very cool. Like a lot of athletes don't see, like, of course they're like, oh, my diet or my 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 workout and my training and my body, but I think there is a lot more nuance and energy, like the way he manages his energy, like and like talking to people, his enthusiasm he saves for different stuff, understands that like that deplete, like any kind of depletion impacts other areas. And so being somebody who obviously like approaches living and my life in a very holistic way for clarity and ability to be at the highest level as far as connection and feeling good in your life, I really like relate to that. And so like if I were to be able to meet any athlete like ever, he would be it. Like, or just anybody, like if someone be like, who would be like the one person that you would ever want to meet, I'd be like him. Yeah.
I love that. It's funny because I'm not like a really big, I've never been like a sports fan really. And I've never like even played really like sports. But my boyfriend's a huge sports guy, so we watch a lot of. I do actually, and this is separate from my boyfriend in general, is like I do love a good sports documentary, and I think it's just like because of the humanity of it, like you know what I mean. Like I have no interest in the sport that they play or the task that they do, but I do like have a great interest in like the humanity of it and like the different like I don't know when they're talking about like why they're doing this or like why this is their passion or like why or like the different I don't know methods they go about like shaping their craft and that sort of thing. I find like I said, not to beat a dead horse with the word, but like the humanity of it all, like I am keen to that a little bit more and like all the different versions of yourself that you kind of go through to get to like be an athlete or just generally like as a person. And so I have a love for sports documentaries, but not so much the game.
Yeah. No, I mean, I totally understand that. And I think with like team games like football or like basketball, it's a little different. I think when you have sports where it's just you, like I think with one of the reasons why I love tennis and like I've gotten a little bit more into football because I watch with my husband and I'm starting to understand the strategy of it all and like I kind of get it. And I used to be a huge basketball fan when I was like in high school and when the Knicks were good. Oh, well, they're good now, I guess. They're getting there. I guess they're
Lost
getting
on me,
better.
girl. Like,
Yeah. But tennis, it's because it's like you're by yourself out there. It's like you have to problem solve. You have to like there's no excuses. Everything
individual
happens
sports
in
I
a
feel like are so much more interesting, like the mental game of it all.
totally and like everything happens in a second. And there's really no resolution. Like there's really no certainty, right? It's like a basketball game, is going to end in 48 minutes. Like, it's 12 minutes and, a quarter. Like a football game, it's 15 minutes a quarter. Like 15-minute ends, the quarter ends. Like tennis, it could be an hour and a half. It could be like 5 hours. It's like you can't. There's no certainty in it, and also like you have to be so present for tennis. Like, if you lose your presence, like you can lose the match in a second. And I really just find such a similarity between like my values and philosophy on life to tennis.
Yeah.
And so seeing it at the highest level with like elite athletes like that, is just like the ultimate. And so, so even, Novak is like 37 and I'm sure he'll retire soon. I still appreciate the like seeing people live their life that way. And when you hear them speak, even when people ask them questions that they want them to give them like a certainty answer, their answers are always like very in the moment, like similar to the way that like I answer clients' questions when they ask me. And I'm always like, it's neutral, it's like just be with your cues. Like, this, just however you feel in this moment, this is this moment, then the next moment's the next moment. Like you can't be so far ahead of yourself, because if you are, it's usually going to trip you up. And so when I see that, I'm obsessed. Yeah. Very obsessed. Very, very dedicated.
Well, I think that there's like so many different like motifs to like tennis specifically, like to like mental, like just the mental game, I guess you could say. I hate to call it like your mental state like a game, but like there's a lot of like different nuances that are very similar from tennis to life, I guess you could say. And the reason why I'm saying this, and despite not knowing anything about tennis really, is other than like the baseline of the sport, is when it's funny because I way back when I had created a podcast, right? And it was called Emotional Athlete. And the premise was, it was so funny because I would like share the name with people and they'd be like, "What are you talking about? You like don't know anything about sports." And I was like, "Great, glad you asked." Because like the motifs were all like sports, like the visuals for it were all like sports related, and we did a lot of like commentary on the sports and stuff like that. But I'm big like mental like feelings, like that sort of health and like mental health and wellness type of thing, which blends kind of together. But when I was in college, there was I went to school for theater and amongst other things, but I went to school for theater and I had a class and it was an acting class that I had taken and my professor had said, actors are emotional athletes. And what she meant by that was much like an athlete would have to in the game is being able to drop into extremes, or drop into some, I don't want to say extremes, but for the mental picture here, like drop into extremes at a moment's notice. So if
Mhm.
the game called for it and they needed to really push themselves, and go there, then they would be able to without kind of like spraining their ankle, or
Mhm.
like seriously injuring themselves or something like that. And the only way to do that was to practice,
Right.
and to, you know, exercise that muscle so that when you go there, it's not debilitating, or it's not like super painful, or benches you, if you will. And I was always like that like really stuck with me. And mind you, she said that, and like I didn't create this until like 5 years later. But it always really stuck with me, the idea that you can like need to practice to drop into it, and how many kind of like, I mean, like I think about the different versions of yourself, and like, what you have to do and who you have to become, and different layers of your life, to be able to be this like emotionally fit person.
Yes.
And like, so when you kind of talk about just how the like tennis mirrors a lot of your, like the way that you talk to clients, or just life, or your mentality around your work and stuff like that, I see such similarities in that. Like, you have to be an emotional athlete, you know what I mean, just to live your life.
Totally. You do. That's such a great point. Like, that's such a great analogy. I love it. I love a good analogy, so
Yeah, me too. Kindred spirits on that.
yeah, I love it. So, no, that's such a good analogy, and it's so true. It's the same thing with everything. It's like when I speak with clients about eating, it's like, people are like, "How do I handle going on vacation eating? How do I handle all these bigger things?" And I'm like, it's when you're by yourself in your house and you feel the urge to like eat more of something and no one's around, so you don't like, there's really no major thing. But like, it's the small things that you do it's the small things that start to become like like the muscle resistance, that when the big thing happens, doesn't feel like such a big push or such a big lift.
Right.
Um,
I think it, I mean, you've said it before, even on this podcast, is like, there's like, you have to go out and do the things, and when you inevitably fail, or you have, a binge, or you have, whatever that failure looks
mhm,
like to you in whatever context, getting there and not being like, this is the end of the world, this is like the end of all my progress, this is like whatever, the end all be all, and being able to kind of like come back from that setback. But you have to be there and like kind of relish in that failure, quote unquote,
mhm.
to like further your elasticity, if you will.
Yes,
Like, I think
exactly.
that sitting with the bad, and sitting with, the, I if you have a better word for failure, I'm just like for loss of words, adversity, thank you. Like, sitting in the adversity of it all is just as important as like relishing in your wins.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Or else there would be no separation of between the two to have a middle ground.
Exactly. Like, you wouldn't be able to get like all the greatest athletes, like they always learned from the bad, the losses, the adverse situations. And so they're always good. Like, there's never not a win. It's especially, you need to have that mindset. The only way you don't have a win is if, your ego's involved, or if you have some unrealistic expectation, right? So the same thing with exactly with this. It's like, there's going to be always be something to learn from an adverse experience, especially when it comes to eating. And if you see it that way, and then you recognize that you have the power, and you have a mindset of personal growth and accountability, and um this belief system around I am in control, then you know that now you have a new tool that you can apply, that you can use the next time something comes along, as
Mm-hmm.
long as you recognize it as a tool, not as something, not as a weapon that's
Yeah.
hurting you.
Yeah.
And I feel like recognizing something as a tool versus a weapon is a massive mindset, you know, is a mindset upgrade that people have to recognize. And that means you have to have a different attitude around negative feelings. Be like, oh, just because I'm feeling sad, bad, guilty, like gross, whatever, doesn't mean that it is bad, or it is like something bad happened. My feeling isn't my reality, but I am also allowed to, but I also do need to feel this so that I could learn from it and change the reality next time.
Yeah. And I think about, I don't know, when I think about the best version of myself, I think about how that person contains multitudes. And I think that that person, that self of me, is somebody who like feels a broad range of emotions, or they have a broad range of wins and losses and things like that. And so I think that without going there, and like without really noticing, recognizing adversity, challenges, or just like straight up feeling fucking bad,
Mm-hmm.
and just sitting with it and being like, yes, this feels bad.
Mm-hmm.
That did not make me feel good. And just kind of like relishing in that, if you will, like, is just as important as me, relishing in the good moments, because I don't think of myself as somebody who wants to be, it's not that, this is going to sound crazy, but like, I don't want to be somebody who's just happy all the time. Like, I want to be someone who feels the whole spectrum of human emotion. And I don't think that you get a big, full, like happy life. Like just, I should say, not happy, but like big, full life, big, vibrant life without feeling the spectrum of it all, because I don't know. I think both sides of the spectrum kind of like inform the opposite. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so it just, I don't know. I think of it kind of like a massage in a way. Like, you really sometimes, I don't know if you're a fan of deep tissue, but like when you go in and get a
Huge
massage,
fan.
you're like, sometimes this fucking sucks. Like this,
Mm-hmm.
like this is top of mind because I just got a massage the other day. But like, and I love a deep tissue, but they go in and you're like, I'm so tense, so awful. And they go in and they kind of, throw an elbow in there and you're like, this sucks. But then afterwards you're like, wait a minute, this feels amazing. It is exactly what I need. You kind of need to relax the emotional fascia of it all.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely for sure. I think complexity is amazing, right? Like living in like a state of complexity. I think that's really the, like when people say, "Oh, what is the like what's the secret?" And I think the secret is inviting in complexity, and like you said, spectrum, like keeping things, because once you invite in complexity and you can navigate it well, it becomes really simple. Right? Like if you try to stick to simple and then complex things happen, it can become chaos really fast because you're not used to it, right? And it becomes, but if you invite it in and you're willing to become elastic, like you said, I think then, life can be really fulfilling and, not so up and down. But I think being comfortable with that kind of neutrality is, and also just, living from that place. And look, like I consider myself able to live in the neutrality, but there are times where I'm like really low. There are times where I just know I'm really like in a low place. And the difference is like, I'm like, this is a low place. And if there's one thing I'm certain of is that if I don't try to push myself out of this low place, I will wake up one morning and I'm not going to be in this low place. I just don't, but by no, I can't really determine. All I could do is do like my discipline stuff, continue to, just because I'm in a low place doesn't mean I'm going to throw everything to the wind, right? Like if I'm in a low place, I'm still going to do yoga. Like I'm still going to make good eating decisions. Like I'm still going to do the things, I might not feel as good doing them, and I might not do them to I might not, they might not be like the same energy around it, but I'm still going to go through those motions because that's what's going to bring me to the other side, right? So I feel like everyone needs to have these. I think that as a human, you need to have these anchors of stuff for you, and I think your one's relationship to eating and feeling empowered and really like making decisions around eating and making good ones that nourish your body as just like an anchor for self-care, I think gives you this innate ability. People are like, I don't know, I don't have discipline. Like, I don't have something like that. Like, I don't like yoga. And I'm like, well, why don't you just approach your choices with food as that? It's like you can see it that way. That's a huge mindset reframe too, I think.
100%.
I remember what it felt like to be stuck in the cycle of emotional eating. I tried every diet out there, counting, tracking, restricting, but nothing ever worked. Food controlled my life, my thoughts, and I constantly felt guilty after eating. But once I learned how to heal the emotional triggers behind my eating and trust my body, everything changed. I stopped obsessing over food, the weight started coming off naturally, and I found real freedom in how I ate and lived. So, I created the Sober Eating year-long mentorship to help other women experience the same transformation. So you can stop battling with food, you can lose weight without deprivation, and you can feel confident in your body again. In this mentorship, you'll have access to my proven nervous system rewiring method. You'll have access to live coaching with me, weekly accountability, and a community of women who truly understand your journey. You'll also have free access to my signature programs, the Emotional Eating Solution and Decoding Permanent Weight Loss, valued at $2,000. Click the link in the show notes to explore the mentorship today. You don't have to do this alone. I'll be right there with you every step of the way.
And I think that not only looking at self as like a spectrum, but also I think about past versions of yourself and not absolving them when you don't resonate with them anymore. Rather,
Mm-hmm.
they're more like kind of Russian nesting dolls in
Mm-hmm.
the grand scheme of things. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're still connected to those different versions of yourself or parts of you because say there was a phase of your life or a portion of your life where you were really low and you don't really resonate with that anymore. Like I think that still identifying that like as a part of yourself and something that you had to go through to get to this person is very vital because it informs your choices going forward. And I feel like if you don't kind of keep it with you in a way, it's a little bit of a form of self-abandonment because you're like you went through all of those things like that. You don't need to eradicate that or erase that. Like, and in this instance, say for example, your former self, you were at, I mean, it could go both ways. Like you were at you were at a higher weight previously in your life and you're like, oh, I don't even want to think about that version of me. Like I don't even want to even like see a picture of like that past version of me. And it's just like I don't think that it does you any service like now if you're in a smaller body, like to be like, oh god, I hated that version of me, I hated like that self, like I don't even want to think about it because that person, that version of you made the decisions to get you where you are now, or like what it was in that body that you decided to begin taking care of yourself, or in that body that you decided to do these things that got you here. So I think that abandoning that version of yourself and kind of giving all your bad qualities off to this previous version of yourself is so discrediting to you and your journey. You know what I mean? And then it
Yeah.
goes both ways. Like even if you were someone in a smaller body and comparing yourself to being in that smaller body and now you're in a larger body, like I think that abandoning that person, being like, oh my God, I wish I could get back to her. I wish I could, talking about it like it's a different self is just so discrediting to you and like where you're at,
100%. I mean, I think you're making such good points about how we weaponize ourselves and who we've been, and we live in the past, we live in the future, we live in comparison. And I think that to live a happy life and to feel good, you can't try to recreate or reclaim a past version of yourself, and you can't try to run away from becoming a version of yourself that you didn't like. That can't be your motivation. You have to create the conditions and for who you are today, and who you are today. It's like I have this conversation with one of the women in the mentorship call. We had this conversation, I think maybe like a couple weeks ago, where the women in the mentorship, there are some people that are everybody is mostly, everybody is really working on their relationship with food, with their feelings of addiction or out of control with food, and of course, and then there are some that most people want to lose weight, but I would say not everybody does, right? But most people want to lose weight. And so in our calls, we often talk about weight as numbers, right? Like because I do think that everybody should have a measure. If you want to lose weight, you got to have a measure, whether that's your number, whether that's your clothing size, whether that's whatever. I have no attachment to either. I think it's also extremely personal. I am not like, when you're in my program, you need to have this, you need to weigh yourself. You need to do this. Like whatever somebody feels like works for them, I'm happy with that. And I'm just there to support. But one of the girls, is very attached to this number that she wants to hit. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I was like, well, why? And she said, well, because that was when I was that number when I felt my best, like 10 years ago. And I said, okay. But like, what if 10 years ago, like, what if your body composition is different now?
Yeah.
And like, there's something different now. And like that number is going to be higher, but you feel good in your body. And like, you still feel like, you're still wearing the size that you feel good in. Like you're still, you feel good in your clothing. Like you feel smaller. Like, I don't know about you, but for me, it's like, there's a different feeling I have in my clothing, in my body, when like I'm at a good place with my body, and when I'm not. I don't really know what the number is, right? Like I can assume maybe I'm a little bit higher in number, but like I don't really care. It's like if I feel good in my body, I don't need to go to the scale and like validate it. I don't care. Like I don't really do that. And so I was saying to her, like, why don't you, what is the attachment to this number? And I think that there was so much suffering that was coming by trying to reclaim this number. It's like the number will give me the validation that I'm here, rather than, last week you told me you felt great in your body and that you were in the right direction. And to your point, I think that when we compare ourselves to old versions of ourselves, we're not taking into consideration some of the life circumstances, some of the biological and chemical ways that our body might have redistributed weight or made us have extra weight because maybe we have more muscle now, or maybe, our bone density changed, right? Like maybe there's different reasons why the number is different. And so you have to find a way to love yourself as the self that you are now. And you have to find a way to have standards and, I don't know if goals is the right word, but ways of measures of being your best self, of what will make you feel and look good, that only measures the self that you are now. Not saying, oh, I want to be who I was before.
You know how people say comparison is the thief of joy? I think people tend to forget that includes self-comparison as well. And I think it's like the thief of progress too. I think it's
the thief of contentment.
Yeah.
People want to feel content, and they'll say, oh, I'll be content when I, get to that number that I was 10 years ago, then I'm going to feel good again because I'm going to be that person. Then I'm going to get there. And it's like, no, you'll be content when you find the measures of the self that you are now. And just to kind of circle back to the tennis thing, one of the things that I love about Novak Djokovic is that he has changed as he's now old, right? So it's like the way that he's the best now, it's because he can't be the way that he was the best 10 years ago. The way that he played and was like the ultimate, like, you know, the best 10 years ago and winning and just crazy winning 10 years ago, he has to win different now.
Right.
He's not the same body. He's not the same person. He's the same person, but he's not the same person.
Right.
And he's smart enough to realize that. And he's not trying to recreate 2015, you know, like he's not
an evolved version of himself.
Yes. He even hired one of his rivals as his coach because he's like, you saw me in my game. You can help me, you know, almost like take my game and like apply it to the self. Like he's willing to evolve, like you said, evolve and become the best version of the self he is today. Rather than trying to say like, oh, I was an amazing version 10 years ago. That's the only version that I could be to be amazing. And I think that is so elite. Like that is so elite. And that is so like, that's where the happiness is, when you're able to appreciate yourself and like say like, yeah, I felt really great 10 years ago. And I think I looked good. And I think that I felt good. Also, you know, time is like rose-colored glasses, however they say it. It's like I'll always
you in a softer light.
Yeah, like I'll always ask people, I'm like, okay, but I mean, what was going on in your life then? Like, were you truly
100%.
happy? You know, like I remember when I was like, you know, wearing the tiniest, like I was, you know, 15 pounds lighter than I am now. And I was like a bulimic. Like, you know, did I occasionally walk into a room and love how I looked in that dress? Like, sure. But was I feeling horrible inside? Yes. Was I like insecure? And yeah, maybe I had a moment of feeling great, but there were just so many other negative things in my life at the time. And so I think being able to see in the full view, especially when it comes to this topic, obviously, what the reality of the entire situation was when you're whitewashing, you know, something that was 10 years ago where you're like, I want to get back there. It's also like, do you though? You know?
Do you remember what they really felt like?
Yeah. And it's like, try to optimize yourself now, not thinking that optimization means you have to go back to where you were before. Yeah.
I feel like this conversation took such a turn, which it often does. Like, I'm so glad that we hopped on earlier to start discussing, because I think that like this is so true. And I love talking about emotional elasticity and just the idea of treating yourself like an athlete in that sense. Like I said, not an athletic girl. Like I really have never been, and I've never been somebody who could really like latch on to sports or anything like that. But when you kind of like look at the nuance of it all and like the undertones of it, I think it's so beyond interesting.
Well, I mean, that's why I love sports. Like I love the human will, you know, and not willpower, but like the human resiliency. Like the people that feel like their lives are the most like full is because they're willing to see themselves as like players in life, and then they're willing to be like, I'm so lucky to be playing. Like when you listen to people at the end of their matches when they win, like the first thing they say is like, I'm so lucky to have this like sport. And like I feel like that's what we need to do about life. Like we're so lucky to have this life. And of course, like that doesn't mean that you can't be sad or have pain, or you know, of course, like it's also very hard. And life is not a sport game. And people have, you know, conditions that make it challenging, of course. I'm not going to diminish that, but I think that seeing yourself as this, like, it's so amazing that we get to have a life, you know, that we get to live and we get to like be here. And especially if you're relatively healthy, especially if you have health, you know, like real health. Like I just feel like we owe it to ourselves treat ourselves like elite athletes and like do the things, right? And it's like, we don't even have to be elite athletes. They're like, their lives are insane.
Yeah.
Like, we just have to like make self-honoring decisions, have boundaries, have self-awareness, deal with difficult emotions sometimes, make decisions where it's not give in to our, most reptilian and primitive urges, right? It's just like, this isn't like, you think of it, it's like not, that difficult, and like at first, like you said, with elasticity, it's hard to do, and when you're not familiar with doing it every day. But when it becomes a daily practice, because you view your life that way, you view your life as an opportunity to practice these types of things, like, it's really in the consistency of living that way that you get that contentment, you get that happiness. It's not like some secret that you're just going to like get a download and you're just going to get a secret and now you like, it's all good. It's really the consistency of these small little things. And you don't really, it doesn't mean that you're never going to have sadness or pain or anything like that. But again, like we said in the beginning, the sadness and pain are tools. They're still, the negative, the adverse situations, the choices that you made that weren't good, the feelings of failure, like those are opportunities baked into those situations too. So
yeah, I think we owe it to ourselves. Like you said, I think it's very, very rare to even, not to be too like existential about it, but it's very rare to even exist. And like you said, it's very even rarer for you to be in even relatively good health, especially these days. Like, I think that, like you said, we owe it to ourselves to give ourselves the best shot. And when I say the best shot, like, I think that using every facet of your life, and I don't know, like you said, exercising kind of your life in its fullest capacity is like the least you can do.
100%. Couldn't agree more. Well, thank you so much for coming on today again. Love our chats. I feel like I'm such a dork for existential conversations. And
Same.
so it's like, well, are we both Capricorns?
We're both Capricorns, yeah.
Yeah, obviously.
We all just want to know how we fit into the grand scheme of things, right?
Oh my God, yeah. And to our listeners, we love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, if you're listening on Apple, please subscribe and like our episodes. We love doing these episodes for you. And we are here, new episodes every week. So until next time, I'm Alana.
And I'm Kassi.
And thank you for listening to Emotional Eating Unwrapped.